Hi there! In this video, I'll be doing a review of the Signum Cuda wristwatch. I'm giving myself an 11-minute time limit to get the review done. I borrowed this watch from my good buddy Tim Johnson. You can find his channel hanging out up here. He loaned this to me because he wanted me to give a more vibrant watch a try. So of course, in front of us here, we have the Signum Cuda Titanium with the fully lumed dial. Signum sells a whole lot of different models of the Cuda that come with various case materials, dial materials. This is specifically the one that is a titanium case with a steel case back, and then the dial, the hands, the indices, and the bezel are all lumed, as is the crown. Not that you're using the crown to actually tell the time, but it's a cool little thing there. This watch normally ships on a titanium bracelet. I don't have that bracelet here. Tim didn't send it when he loaned over the watch. One part is that he knows I prefer straps. The other part is that he couldn't find the bracelet, so I'm sorry for throwing you under the bus there, Tim. But I'm not going to be talking about the bracelet for this watch, but I am factoring that into the value equation for this watch. This is from the microbrand Signum. They're one that I wasn't familiar with until I actually got this watch in hand. They're owned by the same guy who owns the Stratton Watch Company, which is like a lot of racing-inspired watches. I think they're pretty cool, but nothing that really suits my fancy, right? Signum is Latin for sign, so like making a sign, making something stand out. This watch is trying to be unique. And I think it does that in some ways, but in other ways, not as much. So let's talk stats of the watch here before I go too much further. The case width was 42.2 millimeters on my calipers. Case width, including the crown, was 45.6 on my calipers. Thickness, I measured at 13.96, so let's just call that 14 millimeters. The lug to lug, I measured at 50.1, so not small, but not massive. 22 millimeter lug width, which is nice because we can get a whole myriad of straps for this watch. The weight as it is right now is 106 grams, so not super heavy, not super light. Let's talk titanium. I have seen a lot of people either rant or rave about how much they love or hate titanium. Titanium is something that I think is really nifty to have on a watch because you can have the watch and make it lighter. This watch was stainless steel. It would probably weigh closer to 150 grams as it currently is. I have seen people complain that, oh, my titanium watch is too light. Well, brother or sister, you made the decision to buy the watch knowing that it was titanium. I don't understand people who are like, it's too light to have titanium. You knew what it was going to be before you bought it, right? This watch is not feather light like this Tag Heuer I've got on is. But it's not super heavy either. So I dig that. I like the titanium. Now, there are a couple of scratches and dings and dents from my time with it and Tim's time with it, but nothing crazy. I think it's held up pretty good. I like that the titanium on this is not super gray. It's more of like almost like a very brushed stainless steel, but it is still titanium there. The bezel is titanium, which is nifty too. I will say that the bezel has a little bit of back play, which I think is mostly from just Tim and I owning and using this watch. 120 clicks. It sounds pretty good. Nice ratchet. And this watch is powered by the Seiko NH35. Now that is a movement that if you're watching this video, you already know what it is. I don't have a love-hate relationship with the movement, but I would say that I am not super hot on that movement. We now live in the very competitive watch market where you can get a Miyota 9015 in watches that are this price. Now, are those watches titanium and fully lumed? No. But I wouldn't mind seeing a version of this watch down the line for maybe $500 that has a 9015 in that. The NH35 is not a bad movement. It has a lot of good, durable qualities, but it's not the most accurate movement. It doesn't have the higher beat rate, which is a thing that a lot of us like. And as an enthusiast, I wouldn't mind seeing slightly better specs out of the movement. This watch is running about 12 to 15 seconds fast a day, depending on the position where it's kept. That's not great, but it is well within what Seiko sells NH35 movements as, which I think is minus 40 seconds a day up to plus 20 seconds a day. Movement's not great, but it's not terrible. That movement is part of why the watch is as thick as it is. I will say that even with the watch being fairly thick, it still wears pretty well. Our sapphire glass there, I believe it has an anti-reflective coating. When I was looking at Signum's product page for this watch recently, they didn't advertise anything about it. But I will say that the amount of glare on this watch is not really bad. It photographed very easily for me in my light box for my photos for the written review. That written review will be down below once it's up too. Wearing the watch, and obviously this camera perspective is not the best perspective for seeing how the watch looks. I have 7.5-inch wrists, and I think it wears pretty well. Admittedly, if you saw me wearing this out in public, it would be different because of just how the perspective is. But if I put my arm down, let's move the Arnie out of the way here, you can see that it actually fits my wrist pretty well. I've got bigger wrists, though, and fairly big arms, so I can pull off bigger watches. If you have smaller wrists, this might not be the watch for you. That being said, if you like how it looks and you like it, I mean, wear it, But I do dig how it wears. I wore it a fair bit hiking over the over the summer. I dunked it in a lake with some ducks in the lake, and they were very attracted to the watch. They tried to steal it from me, so obviously I won. I grown man versus half a dozen ducks. Who would you put your money on? Well, I would hope it was me. So, yeah, the Signum Cuda. The movement, like I said, not a huge fan of it, but it's not bad. I haven't had any weird malfunctions with it. It's just, I wish it ran a little bit better. Let's get into the Lume, because honestly, that's the reason why you buy this watch. You're not buying it because you like the looks necessarily. Maybe you like the looks, but you can get a lot of orange watches for $450, right? You can get a lot of watches that look kind of cool for that price. Let's kill the lights, take a look at it. If the lights want to get killed. And kill that one. So I'm going to take a black light here, but even before I do that, you can see that this is still glowing pretty good. We're going to hit the Arnie, we're going to hit the Cuda, and we're going to hit the tag. So the tag's going to fade very quickly. By the time the video is over, it's going to be, faded. 30-something years old, so I get that. I will say that the Cuda is one of the brightest watches I've ever worn. This is one that I honestly have to remove it at night if I'm just sleeping at my house, because I will think that I've got a light turned on somewhere in the room. It's like a night light. It is so darn bright. That's a great thing, though. When it comes to Lume watches I have, like watches of great Lume, the Arnie's pretty good. And obviously, I can't complain. We also have a backlight on that, so that's, nice to have. My two Omegas have pretty good Lume, but this just blows everything out of the water. Signum applied a ton of Super Luminova to this watch, which is, again, a good thing. I'm not complaining about that. But that's the selling point for me, is entirely the Lume. This is a watch that, design-wise, I don't think it was made poorly. I should say the build quality is quite good. The Seiko movement notwithstanding, which again, this is a little bit more premium, maybe for a little bit more money. But the general build quality is good, right? Like the case finishing and all of that. My thing is that design-wise, if we look at a Seiko watch and the Signum, the indices are the same, the hands are very similar. Not the, the arrow hand here, but we have cathedral-style hands for all of them. Again, it's just very similar look, right? I'm not saying that this is a Seiko ripoff or anything of that nature. It's just that you can see the direct inspiration for this watch was certainly Seiko watches, the proper ones that everyone who's an enthusiast knows, right? I do like having the 6 o'clock date window, and I do like the actual window around it there. The dial has a nice texture to it, which is cool. The chapter ring is good, but again, very Seiko for the chapter ring there. And it's just generally built pretty well. And I really can't complain too much about that. Again, this wears pretty comfy. I've gotten it wet and I've sweated on it. I've worn it to the gym. I've gone shooting with it. With the counterweight on the rotor that can swing both ways, I'm not as concerned about shockproofness with an automatic watch like I might be on something that only has a one-way rotor. But generally speaking, this is a watch that I'm a little lukewarm on. I love the vibrant color. I think the Lume's great. I dig the titanium. I don't have the bracelet, so I can't speak to the bracelet, but I know I really wouldn't wear the watch on the bracelet. I currently have one watch on a bracelet, and that's only on there because I don't want to have to pull it back off. Yeah, I prefer to have rubber straps and everything. I will say that if you want to swap straps, the Cuda makes it pretty easy because we have the holes for the lugs pretty close to the end of the lug. And then what I like here is that it's a flat bit here for the case. So you don't have to worry about curving your bracelet or your strap onto this watch. So I dig that because I have a couple of watches where the case hugs right up there. If you look on this tag, the case hugs right up to the lugs. It makes it way harder to actually get a good fit there for getting a strap on to the watch. Hey, strap on. You weren't expecting that in this review, were you? So the Signum Cuda. I dig a lot of elements of this watch, but $450 is just a very competitive part of the market. For $450, you're getting a watch that has an average movement, but has titanium case, titanium bracelet, great Lume. If you're someone who's like, I want the Lume, I want great Lume, here's your watch. But if you're just saying, I want a really nice dive watch, you have a ton of companies out there. You can look at the stuff from Islander. I love the Port Jefferson watch. That's one that I reviewed last year. The standard non-GMT Port Jeff. That watch is fantastic. And that watch is about the same price as this. I would argue that the finishing on that watch was better than this, but it didn't come with titanium, right? but it still is, great on the strap, great on the bracelet, all those things. The newer stuff from San Martin that is still under this price, you get better movements, you get, similar finishing. Is it worth that value? I don't know. I'm not here to tell you that you should or shouldn't buy it. Would I recommend this watch? Yeah. If you want this watch as like a really, really good, bright Lume watch, rock on. But saying you need to buy this, no. Truth be told, I won't ever tell you that you need to buy something because these are watches, right? Our little black bricks we carry can tell the time. But when it comes to that competitive part of the market, unless you really care about titanium plus great Lume, there's just a whole lot of watches out there, right? So I don't know. I think about the money to enjoyment ratio for watches, and the watches I really enjoy don't necessarily correlate with how much money they cost, right? And this is one of those watches. I know Tim loves it. I haven't watched his review on it because I wanted to be a little bit, didn't want to have that impacting me, but obviously he owns the watch. He really likes it. I've seen him wear it and talk about it. But for me, it's just not really my cup of tea. I would rather have something that is stainless and a little bit less, I don't want to say flashy, but a little bit less vibrant. So Team Beige wins again. Thank you for watching. We're just over 11 minutes here. We're going to stop that, so 11:03. And yeah, what did you think of the Signum Cuda? Is this a watch that you would buy? Is this a watch that you wouldn't buy? If you saw someone wearing this on their wrist, would you go, man, that guy or that gal or that person, they're vibrant. They're okay with people seeing their stuff. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing there. So if you made it this far, our special word for today is going to be orange, but specifically like the fruit. So you can say orange juice. You can say, I don't know, an orange slice, maybe a chocolate orange, something with orange and another thing tied to it. So thank you for watching. And when the review goes live, I'll link that down below, the written review for this watch. Take care.